All right, we are actually on a voyage, aren't we, Adsy?
We are. Off we go.
So we're going to go down into the flooding rains of northern New South Wales, all the way down to Coffs Harbour over 3 days to film as many breweries as we can. 4 days. It's a lot of days. It's more than one. So it's our biggest ever voyage. We're finally going interstate. Let's see how we go.
It's going to be pretty good. Joel can be my car wife. Give me some minties.
Day one of our first Aussie Beer Voyage, We hit the road bright and early, Adsy with a trusty strawberry milkshake in hand, and headed south. As this map, which I definitely didn't just screen record off Google Earth, shows, we're starting in Brisbane, with a number of different stops on our way south to the final destination of Coffs Harbour in New South Wales. So we plugged in the address of our first destination, hit our first chunk of rain and M1 traffic, before turning off the highway and into the lush green surroundings of the Currumbin Valley. As we climbed and climbed up a very long and steep driveway, a hat-wearing figure appeared at the top. It was, of course, one half of the Currumbin Valley brewing duo, Pete, or Smokey, as he's more commonly known amongst craft beer circles. The brewery is set amongst the subtropical rainforests of the Queensland and New South Wales border region, using the on-site volcanic spring water in the production of their beers. Smokey and Sylvie the dog were more than happy to take us on a tour of the brew kit, which featured a kettle that in a former life was a dairy vat, along with their thermal fluid heater, which uses waste oil to provide power to the brewery. A nifty setup that champions sustainability right down to the repurposing of a humble solar water heater.
That's our glycol reservoir, so we repurposed that as well. We've got a mate, Moog, who fixed that up for us, and then the glycol chillers are in that tower there as well, which is reasonably inaccessible from here, especially for poor old Joel and his camera.
After seeing where the beers were made, it was time to set off down the mountain behind Smokey, who had slipped into rally driver mode, and visit the location where you can actually grab a glass of these Currumbin creations. The Currumbin Valley Tap Room opened its doors in September 2023 in nearby Currumbin waters. The venue features 16 taps, an on-site food truck, some funky decor, and a 10 hectolitre Rolec copper-cladded brewhouse, which at the time of filming wasn't yet in operation. After the wild surrounds of the farm brewhouse, the tap room provided a more sheltered location for a sit-down and chat about the rest of the brewery's eclectic history. The full chat and brewery tour, of course, being available soon to watch. So with stop one complete, we handed over some beers from our good friends at Hiker Brewing, which we'll be doing at each venue we stop at on the trip,
Get in my belly.
and hit the road. From Currumbin waters, it was a 30-minute or so drive to the town of Murwillumbah. Enough time for me to practice some arty driving shots before arriving at a pretty nondescript industrial park in the shadows of Stone and Wood Brewing. Welcome to Spangled Drongo Brewing. Despite being quite a lot smaller than their brewery neighbours, they do have some pretty impressive sized stainless on site. They also have these puppet things which, under the watchful and guiding eye of head brewer Brian, Adsy was more than keen to show his moves on, only spilling some beer. Actually, he was pretty good. Once Adsy had finished larking about, sorry, I'll just do the one bird pun, Brian showed us around the kit, which produces their very tasty pale ale, which helped to provide sustenance for Adsy during this part of the interview. I think he was suffering some mild vertigo after looking at the ladder used for dry hop additions. Overall, we had a great chat with Brian, who is clearly passionate about more than just crafting great beers, but also highlighting community engagement and protection of the environment, this being most notable in the brewery's efforts to invest in saving 1 square metre of land for every single beer sold. We'll drink to that. As the rain started to fall once more, it was time to continue moving south, with a stop along the way for some sightseeing, sangers, and more arty driving shots. We were clearly moving into the more soggy part of our journey, which became evident on our next stop at Wandana Brewing in Mullumbimby. We had planned to chat with head brewer Rupert, but with his assistant cut off by floodwaters and unable to come in to work, he understandably had to tend to beer-related duties and put a pin in his on-camera appearance for now. Thankfully though, he did have some time to pour us a few quick samples before we continued on our way once again. Our voyage proceeded south to the town of Bangalore, where we found the very warm and inviting Common People Brewing. Unfortunately, however, in spite of there being people at Common People, the person we planned to chat with wasn't one of these people. Through some more flooding related issues, and also Adsy forgetting to reconfirm the interview, we had to miss out on this chat for now. The upshot though was getting to enjoy some tasty beers alongside a wood-fired pizza in the surrounds of their very welcoming taproom. I also got a break from filming Adsy talking, which is always a bonus. After this break, it was time to hit the highway once again, where we proceeded to the first overnight stay in Baler, a town with a bloody big prawn in it. I don't like prawns. Thankfully, our hotel provided shelter from the oversized crustacean, along with a chance to recharge the camera batteries and rehydrate with Adsy's special green powder. We then grabbed our gear, including our Hiker gift beers and a carton of Spangled Drongo that Brian had asked us to hand deliver, and proceeded via Uber to the last stop of the day. Located right next to Ballina Airport, 7 Mile Brewing is home to one of Australia's best tasting core range West Coast IPAs. And it's no surprise to discover that the man who brewed such a high quality beer is called Matty Wilson. No, not that one, this one. Matty kindly showed us around the brewery, featuring a premier brew kit with 21 fermenters including bright tanks, and of course sat down with us for a chat over some very high quality IPAs. These particular ones being a collab between 7 Mile and Ether Brewing from Brisbane. By the time we had finished chatting and getting a quick selfie, it was getting rather late, meaning that the only Uber in town was going to be a 40-minute wait. Thankfully, Matty dropped us back to our hotel. What a legend. Which meant it was lights out and the end of day 1. Day 2 began with a hunt for brekkie in Ballina, with the weather once again being far from picture perfect. We did at least have success in tracking down some bacon, eggs and excellent Turkish bread before grabbing a selfie with that disgusting big prawn and hitting the road. Today we continue heading south, with our first stop being the usually idyllic coastal town of Yamba. On the way, however, Adsy spotted a nondescript sign that said brewery.
Right, I saw a brewery sign. Might not even be for the one that we're after. This could be great. This could be a great unveiling of an adventure.
Who knows?
Who knows?
Maybe.
What a voyage.
So we made a U-turn and attempted to hunt down this mysterious new target. Turns out it was just an alternate route to get to Sanctus Brewing, which we already planned to visit later in the day, so we abandoned our off-the-cuff exploration and got back on track. Before long, we reached Yamba, which I'm sure looks a lot more beautiful when it's actually sunny. But the good thing about beer, you can just stay inside to enjoy that. And with this in mind, we arrived at our first stop for the day, Wobbly Chook Brewing. Originally, this place was a highly popular backpackers hostel, having started in 2008. But with the COVID pandemic of 2020, all of that changed, with the founding Henwood family deciding to bring another idea of theirs to fruition instead, building Yamba's first craft brewery. We caught up with Shane, who was high enough in the pecking order of the family to be given the privilege of showing us around. And there was plenty to show off, from their range of beers to their German-made wobbly glasses, right through to the newly renovated hotel-style rooms, conveniently located right above the bar. It's also the only brewery that we've been to with a proper elevator. Fancy. Adsy also had a beer with Duncan, because Duncan's his mate. And also the brewer at Wobbly Chook, so he showed us where the magic happened. After all this, we sat down for a cluckin' good chat, as Shane would say, followed by the biggest burger you could find in Yamba. Cluck yeah. It was then time to get moving to our next interview of the day. Sanctus Brewing is located just a 20-minute drive away in nearby Townsend. As the name Sanctus refers to, the beer and more recently spirits are crafted here in God's country. The man in charge of this very fancy brewing setup, Dale, took us for a look around. There was certainly plenty to check out around the brewery, including a very flash canning line and an equally flash macaw. All of this exploring gave us a thirst, so we sat down for a chat after over some beers, with Sanctus sales rep Pat also joining in. We could have stayed in this impressive venue for quite some time, but we did have to keep on moving south to our accommodation for the next couple of nights, in the town of Woolgoolga, also known as Whoopee. Upon arrival though, we were in for a shock. There was only one bed. Mercifully, we were moved to another room for the night. That was a close one. With that unpleasantness behind us, Adsy rehydrated and we annoyed the local taxi driver by making him drop us just up the road to an Indian restaurant, where we enjoyed an evening with our former Helios buddy Charlie and his partner Stacey, even though Adsy is scared of curry and anything spicy. Upon returning to the hotel, I used my technical expertise to get the air conditioning working.
Adsy was getting all shitty because the air conditioning didn't work, but I managed to fix it in literally half a second by just making sure it was switched on at the wall. So there you go, Adsy.
I was using the remote.
And then it was time for bed. Day 3 dawned with the best weather we'd seen yet, by which I mean it wasn't raining. So after breakfast at the local surf club, followed by a quick helicopter selfie, we made the 20-minute trip south to Coffs Harbour, the furthest point of our voyage. With some time to kill before our first brewery stop, we played tourists by visiting this ramp and stair combo next to the Big Banana, before checking out the seaside, where Adsy opted not to go for a swim.
Gonna go for a swim, Adsy?
Since it was a tad choppy. We then remembered that we had brought along some ABV stickers, so chucked one onto a sign, before heading to King Tide Brewing. Here we caught up with co-founder Josh, who was more than happy to show us around the brewery, which featured a 10 hectolitre, 3-vessel system from Boutique. A system that produces a fine array of core range and seasonal release beers that are served in this epic venue built in a former mechanics building. With a touch of timeless European styling, thanks to Josh's wife's Polish background, the venue is a perfect place for locals and tourists to relax and chat over some beers and food, which is exactly what we did. Eventually though, it was time to head back to Woolgoolga for an interview that's been a long time coming. Our first ever ABV episode featured a chat with our good mate and former Helios Brewing colleague, Charlie, before he made the move south to start lending his brewing expertise to the good folks at Woolgoolga Brewing. Ever since he started making quality beers here in late 2022, we've been promising to head down and have another chat with him. We finally made it. Chazza gave us an overview of his new brewing digs, followed by some more beery chats with co-founder Sarah joining in too. And remember those stickers? We gave one to Charlie as well, which he proudly applied to the wall. Beautiful. And with that done, it was time for some more beers and chats to wrap up our third day on the road.
Check this.
It was time to get our groove on for the final day of the voyage. Loaded up with some subpar quality fuel servo breakfast, it was time to leave Whoopee and head back north. After surviving a couple of soggy hours on the highway, we revisited Rupert at Wandana Brewing. This time, he was able to give us a tour around the brewery featuring the most funky ferment vessels around.
I came across this article years ago about how there was all these studies done by the University of Wellington in NZ about the effects of playing music to your beers while they're fermenting. Up to 10% more efficient, so you get 10% less yeast, 10% more beer in the tank. There's a whole bunch of studies into the flavour profiles. You get better flavours out of them, happier yeast. Yeah, it's actually incredibly interesting.
Yep. All of Wandana's beers get the musical treatment during ferment to provide happier and more productive yeasts. This is certainly a chat that you'll want to tune into once the full episode is released. With some more chit-chat done and a few cans acquired to enjoy later on, we had to leave this charming little venue and head north for one final stop on the voyage. Where on earth were we heading? Well, Earth, as it turns out. You'll find Earth Beer Company located in Kuman on a scenic avocado farm that's now known for producing some stunning quality beers for the local community and visiting guests to enjoy. The old tin packing shed makes for a character-filled brewery and tap room, which brewer Zeke was happy to show us around. With our final chat of the voyage completed, we enjoyed a beer or two, just as the skies cleared up. Perfect timing. After this, it was a short hop back across the border into Queensland, followed by a lunch and final beer stop at Currumbin Valley, where we had started the trip just days before.
Road trip complete.
Yeah, I'm trying to drive.
Good work, Adsy.
Jesus.
So there we have it, our first proper Aussie beer voyage. Stay tuned for episodes featuring all of the breweries we stopped to chat with coming over the next few months. Or if you're watching this in 2025 and beyond, they're already out, so go back and watch them. We hope you enjoyed watching our little voyage as much as we enjoyed going on it. Cheers.